The Wednesday, September 20th meeting of the Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board to order at 6:01 p.m. Before we get started, we're going to quickly go around and do some quick introductions. And I'm going to start with the person who's sitting down right now.
Beth Williams, School Board.
And then at the back, who's not on camera, but Cindy Van Conant is trying to get her computer, her device working, so she's back there. She's another school board member. Go ahead, Krista.
Krista Whalen, the school board. Linda Sherwood, Director of Business Operations.
Gina Bergsog, Assistant Superintendent.
Andy Corey, Superintendent.
Holly Durlow Babcock, School Board Chair.
Kate Stoll, school board.
Rob Mann, School Board.
Gracie Dartona, Student Body President.
Julie Vega, Senior Class President.
Tim Garzone, High School Principal. Patrick West, Middle School Principal.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And Tom Solon will be joining us soon. He texted that he will be late this evening. So at this point, we'll open up for agenda adjustments, nominations, resignations, and correspondence. Do we have any agenda adjustments?
I do not.
Does anyone else have any agenda adjustments? Great.
I have a nomination.
Great.
I'm nominating Stephen Crooks for a .6 Science at Hollis Brookline High School. Stephen has his bachelor's in physics and math from MIT, and he has his PhD in physics from the University of California. Stephen is coming on board based on the resignation we had during the first week of school. And he'll be at Masters plus 30, Step 2, prorated for $40,308 because he's .6.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the nomination of Stephen Crooks. Can you just show that to me, because I didn't write this down. Stephen Crooks for a .6 science position for the 2023-2024 school year, prorated for a late start date at $40,308. Degree is Master's plus 30, Step 12.
So moved.
Moved by Beth.
Second.
Seconded by Rob. Are there any questions on this related to the nomination? So am I, thrilled, and
Yeah.
want to express our gratitude to Stephen. All those in favor? That is a, Cindy, are you voting? That is a 6-0 vote. All those in favor. So we do not have to take a vote on the resignation because it happened during that time period that we don't take votes on that?
Correct.
Can I comment on it?
Of course you can.
So I think if I had been able to vote on that, I would have voted no, because it was a resignation that happened on the second day of school. And, you know, I understand that things happen and whatever, but that's really not acceptable in my opinion. Okay, go ahead.
That's it.
Oh, great. All right. That's all?
That's all.
Well, I guess we shouldn't expect a lot of nominations and resignations on the first week of school.
We certainly hope not.
That's great. Thank you. So other than that, we're good. Okay, so moving forward, we will be approving some minutes from the August 16th, 2023 Hollis Brookline Cooperative School Board meeting. Cindy, you weren't here, so you don't have to vote. You can abstain. I need a motion to approve with the following amendments. On page 4, line 17, correct the spelling of during, and on page 6, line 25, replace Whalen with Williams. So I need a motion to accept as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Kate.
Second.
Seconded by Rob. All those in favor? I've got 5. All those opposed? And abstentions. I've got 1. Cindy, are you abstaining? Cindy's an abstention. So I've got a 5-0-2 vote. Motion carries. Okay. At this point, at 6:05, thank you, I'm going to open the floor for public input. Residents who are in here would be asked to state their name and address for the record, and that their input be focused on the agenda items. It's not intended for back and forth, and we ask for people to be respectful during the public input process. The public input is open for half an hour, so if members of the public were to come in between now and 6:35, they would be able to speak to us at some point during the meeting. We would allow them to speak. So public input is currently open. At 6:06, we are going to move on with our meeting, and we will close public input at 6:35. Okay, moving forward, we are going to be putting together our process observer. And Beth, you are a volunteer this month.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Does anybody have a printed agenda? But if not, it's fine. I'll wing it. Thank you very much. Since I just let my computer work. Got it.
Got
I'm
it?
good. I'm
You're
good.
okay? All right, great.
Great. Thank you.
Just moving quite along. So, principals report. So we will start with Mr. West.
Rocking to start the year. The school year was off to a great start. Over 75% of our students showed up to the open house days, the student open house days prior to the start of the school year to try their locker, get to know the building, gather their Chromebook and charger. The 7th grade orientation, I felt, was the best 7th grade orientation we've had in my time here at HBMS, and big thanks to all the work that some staff, especially our school social worker Jillian Berkeley, has done. She had a great kindness presentation that she did with students and staff at the end of the day, just talking about kindness, and she presented a kindness bingo for students to participate in, which was due last Friday, and then now winners will be announced at our all-school community meeting on Friday. But students are settling in, 7th and 8th grade students. Things have been going really, really well. Students are kind, respectful. That's, again, kind of a focus on our year. And everybody seems to be responding very positively to that. So our all-school community meeting on Friday will announce the winners of our bingo, kindness bingo, and we'll recognize some students and staffs and give them some shout-outs, and then we'll have some time for some team-building activities, again, to focus on kindness and respect this year. As you'll see in your packet, we have the DC proposal for April 2024. It's pretty much the same trip as last year with the same dates, shifting from leaving on Monday to leaving, like I think was traditionally been done on a Tuesday, and we'll return on Friday evening. And thank you to Jake Richard for all of his work with helping lead the trip. Our parent open house is tomorrow night in person. Starting at 6 p.m. with a welcome from administration. Parents will follow their child's schedule and visit each class for about 8 minutes. After our open house, we do have a DC parent meeting for 8th grade parents, where we'll go over the itinerary, registration, cost, and other parts of the trip. We are doing the 8th grade PSAT this year, October 26th. It's actually computer-based this year, so it's a little bit of a change for us. But again, we're taking that October 26th. The HB PTSA has actually officially merged to become the HB Co-op PTSA. The first Halloween dance is being hosted by PTSA on Friday, October 27th, from 7 to 9 p.m. We are still looking for more SAU-approved volunteers to chaperone the dance and some other events this year. So if people are interested, please reach out to the HB Co-op PTSA. We are still looking to fill quite a few club advisor positions. Some big ones are the drama club position and the co-advisor for robotics. I did include our withdrawal numbers for the board just to see the middle school. I think it's not the same impact at the middle school as maybe the high school. And then more information about the co-op, the HB Co-op PTSA merger from President Lexi Brooks. I just wanted to include that for people to get involved if they're interested, and reach out to the PTSA to get involved. And then there's just some important dates included.
So before we move on to the DC trip, because I think you have some detail in that, were you planning on speaking to that tonight, or did you just want to include that to us?
I welcome any questions. I don't know how much more
Okay.
information you want,
Sure.
other
No,
than that
that's-
it's the 4-day trip and we're following a similar itinerary.
Okay, that's fine.
But if there's
I
any
didn't know if
questions,
you
I'm
were going
certainly
to
open.
go through all that. So if you're not, that's fine. I just wanted, before you went into any detail on that, I wanted to see if anybody had any questions on the principal's report. Go ahead, Beth.
Just one on the DC trip. I just noticed, listed a lot of staff chaperones. In the past, we've had a lot of staff chaperones, and more recently, not so much, but it looks like a lot are committed early on to this. I was
Yes.
just questioning that, and that
We
sounds
have,
awesome.
I think 15 that are
I was just counting. Yeah, that's
yes.
awesome. Okay.
committed. Thanks to Jake for going around and using his salesman skills.
That's awesome. It's just really nice. I mean, it's obviously there's parents have stepped up and everything, but having the staff, they know the students, and I've been on that trip with a lot of staff, and I've been on the trip with not a lot of staff, and I just wanted to say I think that's really awesome to see that early on, because the trips have gone really even more smooth in the past when there's staff and just more connection to kids and everything. I just think it's great. So more of a comment, but just wanted to see if I was understanding
Yep.
that right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess my question is, have we always had like an opening day assembly, or is that new, like the kindness assembly and the,
We've always had at least in my time here, a welcome from administration, especially to our 7th graders.
Okay.
We do like to kind of go over just building expectations, stressing the kind and respectful thing. A hot one at the middle school is cell phones, so we set the expectation around cell phones and other things.
oh, it's nice that you included pictures from it. I like it. Great, thank you very much. Any other questions for Patrick on his, and thank you for including the withdrawal numbers, because I think Tom asked for those, and that gives us some information. And then, this is kind of right off the top of my head, but I assume there's been some kids who've moved in too.
Yes.
Great, thank you. No other questions? All right, moving on. Thank you, Patrick.
Of course.
Tim,
Then-
we'll start with you, and then after you, I'll ask Gracie and Julie, or is it Julia?
It's
Julie, to weigh in on some of the student stuff.
Sure, so I'll do athletics first. So both the middle school and high school fall athletic programs are up and running. At the high school, our girls soccer team remains undefeated. They went up to John Stark last night and beat another undefeated team, so that was a real good win for us. Girls volleyball, boys soccer, cross country, and actually we do have an update. I don't know if it made it here. I do believe we are sending some students to the bass fishing tournament tomorrow, Thursday, yep. Field hockey has a game tonight, and unified soccer just had a game this afternoon as well. So our fall sports are up and running, as they are down at the middle school. You can see Brian included participation numbers there. A couple notes. If you look at the cross-country numbers, you can see a pretty impressive increase since the 2021-2022 school year, almost doubling in numbers and size. And then also I want to note the golf team has also increased significantly. We're carrying 20 kids this school year. So good to see healthy numbers across the board. And then at the middle school, I want to note that our girls volleyball program added a second team down at the middle school this year. So good to see overall participation numbers increasing in various spots. So I like that. We have our homecoming weekend coming up. We got a full slate of games scheduled for Friday and Saturday, followed by our homecoming dance Saturday night. So very much looking forward to that. We are hosting New Hampshire Tackles Hunger, collecting, that's the food drive, collecting canned foods to address hunger in the state. And I did not get a chance to see them, but it sounds like all the materials are delivered for the middle school dugouts. And I don't know if they've begun construction. They not yet? No?
They just were delivered.
Just the materials got delivered, and I saw the slabs were poured last time we met. So good to see. It sounds like the plan is that those will be completed in time for the spring season 2024. Number of openings we have some positions that got filled since last we met. High school JV field hockey, and then 3 middle school coaching positions, boys, girls soccer, and the middle school cross country got filled as well. Questions on athletics?
I did, and I actually thought it was a great thing, but I was wondering how we were doing it. I saw the girls volleyball in middle school is 37.
You just, yeah, we have 2 teams.
Did we talk about
We have a
that?
B. He just
Yes.
mentioned it. We're piloting the idea of a B team.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
No, I love it. That's why I was.
Yeah, I think in some ways it replaced a 3rd team at the high school, not directly, but maybe by happenstance that the numbers didn't support a 3rd team and they supported a 2nd team down here. So yeah, it's good to see. I think keeps kids in the program.
I agree.
So do you think we could get maybe So I know that in policy, we kind of asked Brian to look into some other topics that have come up with athletics, so maybe we could get him to come to a meeting sometime in the fall, so he could maybe let us know how that's working at the middle school in terms of the pilot program, and because we've had this conversation in the past about how at the middle school, you know, our teams kind of shrink and then they have to expand at the high school,
Yep.
and this could potentially be a way, you know, if there's a way to solve this, then maybe that would be great to see how that's working. And then also there's that other, you know, we've had that topic of, you know, how to deal with some of the concerns that were brought up by a constituent who has concerns about games over vacation that we talked about in policy that we'll talk about next month probably. So
Yep.
I don't want to say Brian has to be here, but just to kind of put it on his radar that maybe he could come to a meeting in the next couple months.
Sure, I'll talk to
Kind
him
of
tomorrow.
touch with Pacer.
I think it would be great, and I also, besides, you know, the number jump there, I mean, like even in cross-country, there's number jump, there's some nice number jumps in some other areas too, and there's, you know, one or two that had some decreases or significant decreases, so it'd be nice to have him here to talk to like
Sure.
all of that at one point.
Tom, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's not specifically on the report, but it's, I'm curious whether Brian is serving on NHIAA this year
He is,
as in a
isn't he?
position.
I don't know what his official role is, but he is on,
He's not the president of it this year, is he?
I'm not sure if he is, he was.
I
don't
know
if
he
that
was.
Has moved on. I know he's still on the board, but I don't know what his official role is.
Okay. 'Cause, there's been some questions that have come up around NHIAA stuff, and I didn't know how.
He's the Division II president.
Pardon me?
He's the Division II president.
He is? I don't know how much we have the ability to lobby with him on those things, or,
We absolutely do. So if we have things that you need to get to him, you can email them directly to Brian or send them to Gina or
Okay.
I.
okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much,
Yep.
Tim, for
Moving
covering
on
that
to the
report.
high school report. We have PSAT testing with our juniors and sophomores who have opted to take it this year. Coming up in October, early October, October 11th, we have it's computer-based this year. It'll be the first time we're administering the PSAT computer-based, so that's a shift in process. So we are doing a pre-administration next week with those kiddos. This year we have 5 national merit semifinalists, which is quite impressive. So I want to say congratulations to Christian Cecil, Dylan Jewett, Elliot Miller, Connor Moquin, and Kazuya Okada as being among the top 1,600 students nationwide for their for some national merit scholarships, which they find out about in the springtime. So congrats. As Patrick noted, I included our withdrawal numbers for the high school, Tom's request, so we can talk about those. I'll finish the report and then take any questions on that as well. I wanted to highlight a new club that Mr. Jordan Scott, our new Assistant Athletic Director, is taking on this year, an esports club. The plan is for this club to run as a pilot program with anticipated success, potentially implementing that as one of our NHIAA offerings in coming years. So we'll see how that goes this year, and obviously a discussion here at the board level to potentially add that as a full-on program. But Jordan does have experience working with the club at the NHIAA, so we're going to try it as a club this year and as a pilot for a potential program in the future. We are hosting.
Can I just ask you a question about
Sure,
that?
of course, yeah.
Do you make a distinction between sports and athletics?
Yes.
Okay. Where does, because I see esports being a competitive activity, but I personally don't consider it in the same activity as athletics. Is NHIAA actively categorizing it as an athletic event?
It's my understanding.
Does anyone else have a question about that? Okay.
The New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association, I don't think offers anything but athletics, so I would
Yeah,
categorize
but
it with the other offerings.
I guess,
So so NHIA is calling esports, it's one of their offerings.
That's correct.
Well, it's actually, I think at the collegiate level, there's an esports.
Yes.
It's Division 1,
Yeah,
Division 2.
yeah.
It's a
oh, no,
big
I
deal.
understand where it fits, but I'm concerned about things such as, does participation on that qualify as a physical activity for
all credit.
meeting requirements?
For getting out of
Jim,
gym.
Yeah.
So not all of our athletics offerings meet the criteria for the PE credit.
So we have discretion in that area?
Yes.
Okay.
but is that discretion based on hours?
Yeah.
So technically, if this turns into a sport for us, and they spend enough hours at it, we have to relook at that.
I don't think that would be a bad thing to relook at.
Yeah.
Ready Player One?
Yeah. Okay. We have time because this is just a pilot club.
Pilot this year, and it sounds like, yeah, so we're not implementing it as a sport now. This is as a club, and then with potential success in NHIAA.
And just to
approval.
add to that, we were approved for a grant to fund the kickoff of it.
Thanks, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So you'll see it as a new item, but we're gonna pull it out or significantly reduce it from new items just to kind of get a feel for the level of interest. What does it look like for involvement? How many hours is appropriate? What's required to prepare for all of the many competitions that they have? So.
I mean, there's nothing, I mean, I think it's great in terms of engaging kids in an activity. Just not so.
There's lots of great skills that come out of it.
Fantastic.
Plus
However.
it's a great vocation.
Right. However, is it a sport is a
it
completely different.
Is it a physical athletic event
Right.
that will,
And
that
if
someone's going to
NH
push to
Right.
say that gets them out of PE?
Right. And that's where the rubber hits the road. Like, is it an NHIA offering? And if it qualifies as that, and that's what it is, it's fine. But that's where the rubber hits the road for all of us. It's like, because our job is to make sure that they're meeting the requirements of PE. Does it meet those requirements? I don't think so. But I guess we'd have to look into it.
You may continue.
Okay. So in-school college and career fair, we are scheduled to run that in November. We are going to host the very, very similar format event during the school day, open it to all students. Last year, we had pretty good attendance at it, but it happened to be coinciding with some athletic events, and students had access to it somewhat by happenstance, but at the same time, ensuring that all of our students have access to these, to this opportunity. We're going to try during the school day with the openings throughout the day. We're also going to offer some neat presentations for parents, and actually there's one going on right now at the high school. So during the parent-teacher conferences, which is actually the same week, it's the week before Thanksgiving. So the night prior, during our parent-teacher conferences, we're going to offer something associated with the college and career fair. I want to announce the retirement of Officer Bergeron after over a decade serving as our SRO. Officer Bergeron is moving on. He is taking on a role down in Leominster in their school district, actually as a civilian. He's working as the director of safety for the entire district. So I want to thank Officer Bergeron for his years of service, wish him nothing but the best of luck, and welcome Officer Josh Hooper of the Halls PD as our new SRO. Officer Hooper has already stepped in and had a 2-week phase of overlap with Officer Bergeron to start the school year, so that was really helpful. Summer band camp, I want to highlight something that went on this year, as it has in years past, but with a new flair. So the band directors at the elementary, middle, and high school got together and welcomed students, both from the middle and the high school, again in an effort to rebound from some of the program enrollment decline that we saw over COVID. to generate interest, to maintain the interest, and it sounded like it was one of the best events that they've had to date. So I want to thank Chaz Rogers, Liz Nolt, and Adam Wallace from the elementary school for putting that together for our students. Couple of dates to note. We have homecoming weekend, like I said earlier. We are hosting Challenge Day, which we have Ms. Williams and Ms. Van Conant going to take part from the board. I noted PSATs, and we are going to be viewing the movie Like, which we talked about last month with students. We'll be sending out the link to the community in the coming days. We watched it as a staff today. And then we'll also host a community viewing next week. So we're getting that information out in the next day or so. Open to any questions or comments?
Any questions for Tim?
I actually just had one about the college fair.
Yep.
Since you're moving it to daytime, will it be open to parents to come in and join in?
Nope. So the idea here was to offer it to students only this year. The goal was to provide something for parents this year. Having it open to the public would just create a little bit of a logistical challenge to manage. So we are offering it to all students, and then, like I said, to offer something, we have some additional presentations this year through our school counseling, both now and leading up until November, and then the week of for parents. So unfortunately, finding the happy medium of offering it and opening it to everyone was just not in the cards. So we're going to try it with kids this year, and as a response to last year where we didn't feel like it was accessible to all students.
Sure. That makes sense. I mean, there's lots of opportunities for schools to take kids to other schools to go to fairs. Parents aren't there either, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that was my question. I was wondering if you were doing it during the day and in the evening, but it's just during the day.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Any other questions?
Yes, they did.
Yes,
Just
Tom.
very briefly, Holly had made
Yeah.
a comment about, we didn't need to vote on it.
I sent you an email. What's?
About Mr. Crooks, I was just curious, is he a certified teacher?
Mr. Crooks is not certified. He is pursuing statements of eligibility in mathematics and physics.
Okay. So how long do we have? for
Statement of
grace
eligibility
period?
is 3 years.
3 years?
Yep. The site-based learning plan, you have 3 years to attain. It can be less than that you attain the
Okay. No,
endorsement.
I was just curious what that window was.
3. Yep.
Thank you.
I had a different question. Okay. Yeah, no, I'd just like to congratulate those merit scholars. Let me go back up to their names because I like to say them. Christian, Dylan, Elliot, Connor, and Kazuya. And that's great. Congratulations to, I'd also like to thank the staff, Liz, Chaz, and Adam for running that camp because that sounds like a great thing for the band and concert band kids. Does anyone have any questions about the transfer types and the numbers that Tim provided and any of that? Any comments on that information that was provided? I appreciate you sharing that with us, Tim, because it was requested. And interestingly, we see that.
Is it, when did you start taking, so did it start from June until
Yeah, it was students. It was students who were enrolled last year and who aren't this year.
in the high school?
Summer data.
It would also include. It would include rising freshmen.
That's what I, okay.
Yeah, yeah, so
That's what I was
students-
wondering about the 11, yeah,
Yep.
that was where I was.
Yep, students who, for example, went to BG from 8th to 9th would be included in that
Okay,
data.
that would be included.
Yep.
That's the number I was.
And then Patrick, your figures include sixth graders who left the SAU and went into either homeschooling or private school prior to coming into the co-op.
Okay.
So sixth graders who left Hollis or Brookline and didn't come up to us. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Okay. And now, Grace and Julie. I'm going to open the floor for you guys to give us some updates from Student Council and Senior Council.
Yes, so right now, Student Council has a very productive start. We started with opening our booths at Old Home Days for each grade, which were all very successful, so it was a good way to start fundraising. And right now, we've been really focused on homecoming week, as Mr. Grisona said. The spirit levels have been very high this year, which is really nice to see, especially as a senior. I'm really glad everyone's participating. And senior council is working on our homecoming dance, which is this Saturday. We have a DJ, which is very exciting. And parents have been nice enough to donate some decorations, so there's a lot of new decor. We also got a photo booth set up, so it's like a mini or a Volkswagen bus van that's going to be decorated with like homecoming for picture and photo opportunities. So yeah, I'm very excited. It's been very organized so far, and we're also beginning to brainstorm some new policy ideas, but that's in the very beginning work since we've been very focused on Old Home Days and homecoming. But yeah. Anything
from you, Julie? No?
Yeah, so we actually did as a class last week during Cav Block. All of the seniors, we went out to the patio next to the cafeteria, and we did a class tie-dye. And since we have our homecoming spirit week this week, we're all planning to wear our blue tie-dyed shirts on Friday as our class colors day. Obviously, as seniors, we got blue. And then juniors are wearing black, sophomores are wearing white, and freshmen will be wearing silver or gray. So just to keep it within the school colors.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the update. Any questions for our students?
Great, lots of great stuff.
Thanks. Sounds like it's great stuff. Sounds good. Thank you. You guys are welcome to stay. We always appreciate your input as we discuss items of business, but you also do not need, I know you're busy and you have a lot going on. You're also welcome to take off as well. So it's up to you.
You can run while you can.
Trust me, when we give the principals this option, they don't think twice. It's like the Roadrunner. Beep, beep.
Don't be between them and the door.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for everything.
Thank you for having me.
Moving forward, I need a report out from the Budget Committee representative, Tom.
Thank you. We met almost a month ago now, so we're meeting again tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
No, excuse me, it's next week. But the main topic was discussion of our recent completed audit, and when the report out was that it went very well, that there were no real findings, which is great. The one thing that was noted, and this is the juggling, is the issue about food services and the need to do spend down. And this is an audit that's essentially a year old now. So there's some lag on it. But one of the things that came about in our discussion of it was whether there's an opportunity for us as a district to increase publicity about the audit results, because there's a lot of information in there and a lot of validation of the processes that are used. The extent of the audit also highlights the amount of work that needs to be done in preparation for it. So the thought was, if we could use any of our available communications outlets to, number one, highlight the fact that we completed the audit with such stellar results, especially in the context of the overall national viewpoint on issues with finances in municipalities. Number two, identify, and this isn't just for the co-op, there were essentially 4 audits that needed to be done. That it highlights the demand on staffing. So just want to point that the Budget Committee felt pretty strongly. They weren't sure where that would best come. My thought was that the districts can individually do it, or it could be done at the SAU level, but that I'm supportive of that sentiment.
Excellent.
There was some discussion about the whole adequacy formulation, and I don't know how many of you had a chance to watch the NHSBA webinar on it? It was really good. It was presented by a guy from the DOE, but Darlene was pretty good going through that, is highlighting the differences, and it's pretty complex, and it's going to create a fair amount of questions, I think. And the big one that's going to probably get pushed to us is the decision of whether or not we just pass it along, or whether we want to take the steps necessary to try to utilize it to fund things. So that'll be coming up, and I'm sure that the administration will bring it before us. The next step for the Budget Committee is going to be to prep for budget guidance. And there was a little bit of discussion of what the philosophy is of how guidance is picked. I found it kind of interesting that it's somewhat formulaic, but there's an awful lot of what's the word, arbitrariness to the process. And I'm really interested in seeing, because I think that's going to be a focal point for the next meeting. I'm really kind of curious to see how that actually pans out, because guidance is a big deal, but I'm still struggling to understand the methodology of generating it. So,
Interesting.
hope to have some feedback for you on that. The Budget Committee does feel like they want to give guidance to the negotiating team, and they have in the past. We'll see where that goes.
Well, thank you for that, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that update. Any questions for Tom? Great. None? Seeing none, I'll move on to report out from the Co-op Facilities Committee. Rob?
So we meet in the first Wednesday of each month, and we had completed our second major meeting, and I really like the direction the committee is going. I think we're starting to hit our stride. We talked a little bit about breaking up a recommendation between things that we would address from a standpoint of the existing infrastructure and recommendations for that, and then focusing our time on opportunities that can augment or assist, or systems that can be more sustainable, more green, things, opportunities like that. So there's like two buckets we're looking at. So currently we're anticipating some numbers around the opportunities to convert the boilers and things like that to liquid propane. For a whole host of reasons, it makes a lot of sense to move in that direction. But I felt that the committee didn't want to go down the road of a complete replacement of boilers, because now you're talking a 25, possibly 30-year marriage there. So we felt that, hey, we could do it with modest cost, consider, but we have to verify that, of course, and those numbers are coming. But that could potentially buy us 5 to 8 years of time, plus any other opportunities for, like air source heat pumps and things like that, that can change the duty cycle of the current heating system. That would also tend to extend the life of that system as well, because now it's not doing 100% of the job. So this is the direction we're going in. We'll know more once we get additional numbers around any type of conversion. And I expect the rest of our time to be very focused on these other alternatives that can marry with our current system to augment or enhance its capabilities or efficiencies, things like that. So.
And you guys know you have like really short time on this,
Yes,
right?
we do. I keep bringing it up. I said December, we got to bring something forward,
Yeah.
so
So it
every
sounds like
meeting
you're
I bring
getting
it
there.
up. So,
Yeah, okay.
I don't
Sounds
know if Tom and Andy were certainly at that meeting as well. I don't know if there's any other things they wanted to add from their perspective.
No, I think you covered it. I think what we're waiting for this month is just the numbers
Okay,
to start
thank you.
directing us further.
Great, thank you. Thanks. Sounds like you guys are all moving things along. That's great. So next on our agenda is the FY '25 Round 1 budget request, which I read through like in detail, and I think this is the list of like wants, right? So I love the list of wants. Doesn't mean that we're going to get any of them, but I love the list of wants.
Exactly.
So do you want to go through some of these, or do you want us
Yeah,
to just
I
ask
was
questions?
going to run through a couple things
Okay.
and highlight some, what I'll call of the major pieces. And as Holly said, this is always, tell me everything you're looking at as a building principal, and then we'll go back and reprioritize as we go through rounds 2, 3, and 4, and that'll end up being our budget, working with the budget committee and meeting guidance. In terms of staffing, I just wanted to talk about 3 things that are in discussion, so you won't be shocked. First of all, the treasurer position that we just recently changed, we're looking at that stipend. The treasurer's stipend for the co-op is $1,000, and it's at least 10 years, probably longer, since that stipend has been changed. So Linda's doing some research, and we'll have recommendations probably in the coming months. Also, at the high school, we're looking at 2 positions, and potentially the reduction of 2 positions. One is a reading position. Right now, this year, the numbers are down, and the majority of that is being rented out to another district. So we will be looking at that and see the validity of keeping that, because right now, with the number of students in the co-op needing those services, it may be cheaper for us to hire a service than pay the benefits and the teaching salary. And the other one, based on some collapsing of sections and different people stepping up, is the computer science position at the high school. So obviously, Tim and I and Gina have a lot more work to do, but I just wanted to put those on your radar and get them out
So
there.
wait, let me clarify. So those are positions so those are things that are not on this list.
They are
So-
not on this list. They could
so
end up
collapsing so you're going to remove the computer science position.
Correct.
And potentially remove a reading position and contract that out.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I'm
From the high school.
I'm
Correct.
restating this because I just was trying to follow along and it wasn't here.
Right.
So, and then the treasurer's stipend is not here also. That's the
That's
treasurer
correct.
that so you're talking about possibly adding that to this list at some point.
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry, just
No, that's fine.
clarifying for my brain. Thank you.
What would be just the scale of those 3 changes?
The treasurer, you might be talking, $500 going up. $50.
Okay. When you do a reduction, do you do it based on most recent, most recently paid, or do you use what we use for our placeholder amounts?
No, we would use the actual last person in the position, okay, for the reduction, because we know that. And when we budget a new position, we're doing Masters Step 7.
We're 7 now?
Yeah. In terms of the academics, I just want to, I'm going to just highlight some things. I'm not going to run through every piece. But at the middle school, we're looking at cool down zones. As you know, we've done a great job of establishing in-house special ed programs. These would be areas where students who have behavioral issues would have a supervised place to go if they were having a difficult day. So they would be within the present confines of our building, and that would be about a renovation. The life skills classroom renovation, that is just preparing us for what is coming up from our elementary schools. And that population is staying steady. We did put money in the budget because we talked about it last year for the DC trip, the bus cost increases as we try to offset those costs for the students. And then we're looking at a multi-use space and an outdoor classroom at the middle school. So those are the major 4 drivers of the academics. As you're aware, we have, like most districts, seen significant turnover. So Gina has put together and revamped our mentoring program to provide more support to those new teachers and those veteran teachers that come here. So there's an increase to that cost. The performing arts is in need of a storage shed. We have found these to be very beneficial. We've used them for athletics, we've used them for facilities, and this would allow us to be able to put one right outside of the auditorium and get a wealth of their material off the back of the stage, really clean that area up. Then there are 3 textbooks, AP Calculus, Geometry, and Business Professional Writing. AP Calculus and Geometry have been scheduled. Business Professional Writing, Tim talked about that based on our new course that we're putting in. The personnel, again, it's mainly changing our stipends from different tiers, and we'll have our annual discussion on that. A big thing, the $9,600 for the after-school academic support. The last few years, we were able to use ESSER funding to support our students, and those funds are going away. But we see this as a really valuable piece for kids who are struggling academically, and Patrick has asked us to consider that. We have a shared position across our SAU again. It's a maintenance trades position. So at the high school and the middle school, the share would be $22,000. At your elementary levels, it's about $11,000 each building. And what this is this would be somebody who can do electrical and plumbing. Because right now, anytime we're making that phone call, we get the service charge. Let's say it's $250 for them to even come out. And in some regards, we can do a lot of the work. We have actually been working with some of our own current staff. Lance has gotten them training and certifications, so they'll be able to do it. And we believe, although we'll be adding a position, it'll be a cost benefit, because again, paying $300 to move the electrical outlet for the new smart board, when it's really a function of about $35, $40, so it's the labor cost we're trying to get around. I don't know if that'll make it through the budget, but I agree with Lance, it's definitely time to look at that. We are, in this budget, we have the back entryway potentially being done. We are waiting to see if there will be a grant program by the state this year. If there is, we would apply for that. But if we do a new entry similar to what we have at the front of the building, we would need an entrance monitor, so that salary is in there. And we are, based on enrollment, Lauren needs a para for the Choices program. That takes us down to replacement of computer equipment. This is our standard kind of ongoing updates, Chromebook for staff, Chrome laptops for staff, interactive flat panels as we continue to move forward with those. The most expensive item there is our engineering laptops that I probably will say probably 6 or 7 years old now.
2019.
2019,
Yep.
okay. Are up for renewals, so that is there for $40,800.
Quick question for you, Andy.
Yep.
On Chromebooks, my wife just got notification that they've extended the subscription, or whatever you want, from 3 years to 10 years on Chromebooks that have not yet expired. Have you heard, does that impact us in any positive way?
Yes and no. So I believe next month you're going to get a full presentation from Logan and Carol from our tech department to just give more information. Yes, we will be impacted by Chromebooks that expire. What the purchase price, what we learned is that sometimes they're cheaper because they have a shorter lifespan. We can't use those for testing because we can't update them and then can't put the secure browser on them. So they sort of become not useful for us if we're talking about a grade that needs to test, and that would be a secure browser for any number of tests, not just New Hampshire SAS. The other
So those
factor,
will get
though,
up-
is that they're district-owned devices, and bringing them back and forth, especially for our middle schoolers, has proven to increase the wear and tear. And even though the license might last for 5 years, we're really kind of trying to plan for a 4-year lifespan of a Chromebook.
I was just, that security thing, it might buy you some time on some of them if they're now being extended, because I guess there's a push nationwide where they've really gotten after is it Google or Microsoft? or
Yeah, no,
whatever's
it's
doing it.
definitely a problem, because especially when we receive so much funding for the Chromebooks. We have about 1,600 Chromebooks that are all going to expire in FY26. So how do you replace 1,600 Chromebooks across the SAU? So sit tight and wait for next month's presentation.
And-
It'll be great.
And even if you budget for it, they may not be available.
Exactly, yep.
Next is athletics. Brian's put in all the different pieces that he needs. You'll see that we have the esports startup in there. We'll work off of this year's pilot and see where we go with that. The biggest piece would be our wrestling mats are at their end of life. So we do need to look at those, and we'll work with Brian, because as you know, we have the athletic trust, the pay-to-play, so some of those will get moved to that as well. Safety and compliance, we have some interior cameras update, a speed table for the main parking lot. A speed table is what is presently out there that was just added down near the baseball fields. So it's not a speed bump, it's up.
I think it's
And then you
interesting
go
that it's
over.
called a table.
Yeah. And then it goes down.
Table.
Yeah.
We can eat on it.
Yeah. It's definitely
have
different than a
the-
bump.
Skateboarding feature.
We have the radio system, that's an SAU-wide program. We put that in. We have applied for 2 different grants. We have not yet been able to secure a grant with that, but we continue to work with the local management groups, fire, police, and they continue to tell us to keep submitting that. We have the dollars in there for the back entrance security renovation. And then some sidewalk, we'd like to extend the sidewalk from what is currently the weight room down past the cafeteria to the stop sign, so that students, when they were leaving the back parking lot, would have a sidewalk the whole way down. Facilities maintenance, as you know, the Facilities Committee is looking at the oil tank piping or alternative, so that is in the budget at this point. We also have money in there for underground oil tanks. We are discussing whether we will just fill those in and not take them out, because it would be a significant cost savings, and it's totally fine to do that. We have a discussion with the town. One of the big things that we hear every year is there a way we could keep more of our middle school population maybe away from Monument Square and on our property? And our kids really do a nice job. It's usually the first few weeks every year that, we have to kind of lay down the rules. But we are in discussion of, could we put a basketball court in that paving area, give them someplace else on the property, but that's town property. So we'll have a discussion with them, and we'll see where that takes us.
Can we tear down the Farley building, make space?
No, we can't.
Yep. You've got that, and, and
We
kids
can't
have
touch
actually,
that building.
Kids have actually talked about pickleball, too.
They're getting old before their time.
I know, it's amazing, if you give them a voice, you'll hear.
Surprised we're not talking about skateboard stuff.
I know. There's auditorium work phase 2. And then there is the main gym padding replacement. And then we have mini splits in the FACS, art, and special ed. That kind of goes along for our long-term vision. If we're going to be moving to mini splits, we're going to identify some rooms that are, I'll say, uncomfortable still, and how do we, work with those. To give you kind of an idea, obviously, we have the warrant articles. We don't have an operating budget yet. HESA would be $82,473. An SAU estimate would be $1,100,000 $180,751. Maintenance trust would be $250,000. As Gina alluded to, next month, we're going to do a presentation, but we will be recommending that we do an IT trust, because then we can get into a set replacement cycle and avoid tax spikes, so that we wouldn't be buying, 500, 600, 700 computers in 1 year, where it would be much more manageable. And also manageable from man hours. Our IT department does a fantastic job, but at the same time, turning around that many machines over the summer is difficult. So if we can get it more in a rotation, that will assist us there too. The maintenance expendable trust, your opening balance is $161,677. We're looking at a proposed or potential warrant of $250,000. And we'd be looking at the second phase of the elevator. The roof section, 9 out of 10 at the high school, and roof section phase 1 at the middle school. I'm really excited because I think after that high school section, we only have one roof section to go. And about 8 or 9 years ago, that was about a $2.5 million project. So we've been able to pay as we go. And I think it also gives us the ability to not ever have to do the whole roof at once again. We'll know which sections were done and continue to be able to plan. And we will have some years off. So it'll be more of, do we start to go to a proactive savings account type of plan and have the money when it comes up, or do we go back and do this process? So it's very, very early. I want to thank Tim and Patrick and their administrative colleagues, their senior secretaries, everybody up on the second floor of the SAU office that works with the budget. But we're off and running on all 4 budgets. And I just, kind of to Tom's point, we're doing 4 brand-new budgets when we're doing audits from the ones that are just finishing and running this present budget. So you're always closing one, running one, and building one.
That's amazing.
So I can't stress enough the systems that have been put in place on the second floor to make that happen.
The $250,000 FY25 warrant you have for the Maintenance Expendable Trust,
Yep.
is that pre-earmarked for anything in particular?
No, I think what's going to happen, Tom, is we're going to go through facilities maintenance, and we're going to make some decisions first of all around the piping and things like that need to be in the budget. And then there'll be some other items that we can move into the maintenance trust, which will reduce the operating budget and be covered through the maintenance trust.
Okay, I'll replay my broken record
Yep.
and ask that you, where possible, use it for accumulated sort of time release elements rather than a pass-through to fund stuff that we want to do next year.
Right.
I'm not opposed to those being broken out as warrants, but I'd rather see the maintenance trust focus on longer-term expenditures.
Are you going to have the same type of issue with a IT trust?
Depends how it's presented. I think that the way that it was just described, the goal is to be able to build up money so that when you have to, so that the cost doesn't all hit in 1 year, even if an expenditure is all going to hit in 1 year.
Okay, just
And I think-
checking.
I think as an administration, we agree with that, and we feel we're finally getting to that point, because we had so many maintenance things to catch up on, that we were doing whatever we could get in the budget, whatever we could get into maintenance trust as we caught up. But now I think just even with something as simple as, Kelly's got the plan in there for the replacement of the scissor lift, the roof replacements, so we're getting much better at that. So I think, that's the piece that we have to look at.
Are there any other questions? I just like this part of the process because it gives our principals and our administrators an opportunity to kind of think big and think about what could be. And then we know there's going to be like, and that's the painful part of the process, I'm sure, but I just think it's so important that the public and we get to see what the potentials are. So I do like that.
Yeah, particularly if it doesn't get into one cycle, keep asking.
Right.
It just
Like certain
may
things
wind
come
up staying.
And certain things come up again and again, and we finally are like, okay, this will be the year. So I think it's such an important part of the process to kind of think big and ask the big questions and let us know what you're thinking and what direction you'd want things to go. So,
There's no placeholder yet for professional staff contract, is there?
No, not yet.
So you budget it at flat?
Correct. So you budgeted it as if nothing passed.
great. Okay.
Thank you, that was great.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Okay, moving on to deliberations. Hold on, I have to do some, great. First item on deliberations is policy JLCB. And I'm gonna need a motion to accept the fourth reading and adopt policy JLCB, immunization of students.
So moved.
Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. And Beth, you're gonna speak to this one?
Sure. Just to kind of rehash on this a little bit, this came up back in December, so this has been a little bit, it got paused for different reasons, just with other needs in the board and to look at this, but there's been no changes since the last look at this. I know there were a couple of questions before about the form, so really, just as a quick reminder, in the last legislative session, they took out the requirement for parents to get a notarized signature for religious exemptions. So it changed in the law, so it's trickled down to New Hampshire DHHS. The form was a little bit changed, so I do have a copy of the form tonight. I made a couple copies if anybody wants to see it. But it's just basically a suggested, and I also have a copy of the law. So we took this straight out of the law, straight off of New Hampshire DHHS. And very similar wording to other school districts locally to be in line with the change in the law. So just to allow parents to provide a religious exemption and the way to go about it according to the law and how DHHS recommends it. So I know there were some questions. If people have questions, we can go over it. But at this time, policy didn't want to change anything at this time because it's in compliance with everything else and matches up nicely.
Are there any questions? All right, I'm gonna take a vote. Are we ready?
Oh, I didn't know that you were saying questions in the context
I
of
just asked for
discussion.
questions. Discussion, questions, comments?
Yeah.
Or we could move forward with the vote.
Give me just a second to open it back.
Do you have a question, Tom?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out how to get the thing to open.
Okay.
Is that your question? All right, just
Would you
checking.
like I have it open.
I have it.
Okay.
So, you're leaving it unresolved as to who's responsible?
Because we're following along with what DHHS says and the form, it isn't, it's
So who is responsible, even if you don't state it, who is responsible
for specifically what?
to deal with the forms?
The forms?
I think isn't that where it was? Where
I
was it?
No, your question was more about what form.
What form? I think so. We didn't want to reference the form as the form has changed, and actually the state law, just to read straight from that, a parent or legal guardian shall sign a form stating that the child has not been immunized. So there is an example form on New Hampshire DHHS, the public health website. So it's often what parents use, but the change in the law, because it's so loosely written in the law, a parent really can just make a statement. They could make their own form. They could literally, write on a piece of paper and hand it into our schools just saying for religious reasons. And I don't think that we as a school district could deny that because of how the law is written. So we could reference the form. The form was updated in March of 2023, and like I said, I do have a copy of the form. It's similar to the past, but it's actually made some changes, not only taking off the requirement for the notary, but also it allows parents to indicate which vaccines or not indicate which vaccines. It's just a blanket. So it's really widened parental rights on there, so it reflects, you know, it's just a
Yeah.
proposed form.
I think what I was more looking at, it's not specifically the forms, it's,
Okay.
it says, in the event of an outbreak, students who have been exempted may be excluded, to be established after consultation with DHHS. Who consults with them?
Well, my answer to that in the past would be similar to COVID, so it ends up being our school nurses, the principals, the administration from the SAU. It's a collective decision, and I don't think even with COVID, we ever really specified specifically. It was a collective group that, and it was also recommendations, so it also notes that on the website that DHHS are, you know, they can make recommendations, but potentially our school district could say thanks, but, you know, we fall into it. Just like with COVID, there was a lot of different reactions based on, you know, some of our schools in New Hampshire and big cities, and some are more remote. So it's vague. You know, the website says may be excluded based on, so we left it vague.
Yeah, the concern I have
intentionally.
is if someone were to challenge it and say, where does it say that you have the authority to do this? Where does that authority come from?
The law.
Yeah, and the law is a little vague on that too, to be
So-
honest.
so there's-
And I think a
it
parent
doesn't do much
could.
for us to help us.
I don't think for us to try to define, I get where you're coming from and I see your concern. I think it actually, the more we define it, the more we may open ourselves up for liability and challenges to it, because it is very vague and really individualized. And I think, I obviously can't speak for state and state law, but I think that's why it's left somewhat vague, is because of the flexibility. And even that, to be honest, like as I research this and everything, they talk about in the event of an outbreak. It is very hard to even define what an outbreak is, even down to Webster Dictionary, CDC, our state. And that's something we struggled with during the pandemic, is what is an outbreak? What is all of these things? So I think that's why it's awfully vague, but
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, but I think that's why we kind of looked at it in policy, but we really couldn't nail it down. And I think trying to nail it down more might make it more complicated.
Well, I think the onus is ultimately placed on the Department of Health and Human Services, because we're saying we're going to consult with them, and that's how the decision is ultimately going to be made. So it really is not any one person in our school. We're saying that
But
it's
it
going.
also says it's based on their recommendations, but it also leaves it.
Right,
you know,
no, but I mean, I
it-
think that's a good, like, we're not just saying it's us doing it,
Correct.
we're saying
Yeah.
we're going to.
Right, and we're not gonna resolve it, and I'm not gonna hold up the vote, but I just wanna make it clear that it's the ambiguity of the entire situation is somewhat typical of what's done in the state, which is, wasn't me,
Right.
kind of thing. And as a result, it's going to end up at the local level, because that's who people have access to, so.
Yeah, and Beth has done like a Herculean amount of like
Oh,
going back and forth,
I
you
don't-
know.
I don't doubt
It's
it. I was
just, we
just-
really just feel like we have to stick with what the law has told us
I
to
was just
stick with,
hoping
yeah.
that we could empower someone so that, for better or worse, you can say, this says right here, I have the authority and I'm making the decision. Yes, it makes
I don't think we can
someone
do
or some group the bad guy or whatever, but
Yeah,
We can't.
it's hard, and like Holly said, I mean, I'm literally holding two different, you know, printouts from the state, from the same people, and one says they may be excluded, and one says they shall be excluded. And so it's, and we've talked about that and played around with those words may and shall, so that's why we stuck with the word may. It's similar, it's in, it lines up with what other school districts are doing, it lines up with what the state says on their website, even though there's some, you know, conflicts even within their own publications, so.
Okay,
I think
thank
this
you.
is the best we can do for
Yep.
now, and it does leave it open in case something changes again, so we're not saying this specific form, we're leaving it so that hopefully we don't have to come back to this policy for a while. It should be vague enough, but yeah, cover what we need to cover, I think, so.
So can I call the vote now? All those in favor? 7-0. Motion carries. Okay, and then next. Sorry, let me find it. I need a motion to accept the first reading of policy JLCF Wellness as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Beth, seconded by Kate. And this one, who's speaking to this one? It's not me.
It is me.
It is Gina.
Okay, so there are two components to this. You can see that we have a very marked up JLCF wellness policy, and it looks like there's significant changes because we've essentially lined out the entire existing policy and replaced it with new language. The language, though, isn't actually so brand new to us because we adopted EFD, wellness, sit tight, in 2020, December 9th, 2020. And it was pretty much, the content of it is essentially the same thing. So what we're trying to do is put the policy where it rightfully belongs in JLCF, because we had that outdated policy that was lettered incorrectly. But so I wanted to have both policies there so you can understand that it was bigger than just editing one policy. The idea is, if and when we adopt JLCF, this new version, then we would rescind the outdated EFD policy. So we only have one wellness policy, not two like we currently have. But like I said, the language has changed. It's now very much in line with the School Board Association language, but it is put together by the SAU 41 Wellness Committee that meets regularly as required by law. And there was an update in, I think, the fall 2022. Policy update was the last one that we received other than the one that we got last week.
Yeah, we
And
did.
it talked about the update in the RSA that said that students shall be permitted to bring water bottles to school that are made of material not easily breakable, have lids to prevent spills, and are filled exclusively with water. So that was a change in the RSA that we needed to update. It wasn't so urgent that we thought we had to do it last September because we don't have rules in our student handbooks that say that they couldn't, but some districts had that. So that's a lot of information, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So is the language from EFD been literally just picked up and plugged into?
It wasn't picked up and plunked,
Okay.
so they started with EFD, the Wellness Committee, and then took School Board Association newly amended policy based on last year's updated RSA. So what I'm saying, it's not really a change in practice, even though language is so different. But the language I feel more comfortable with because it is, it started off from the School Board Association copy rather than internal personnel writing language. But it really doesn't change our practice at all.
Tom?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what I read. The nutritional guidelines only apply that during school and it was a half hour after or something?
Yep.
So it doesn't affect, for instance, selling Girl Scout cookies at the meetings and things like
Correct.
that? Okay.
Are there any other questions or feedback? Okay, this is just for first read, so all those in favor? 7-0.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion carries. So before we go into a non-public session, we'll take a report out from the process observer, and then we'll go into non-public and adjourn from there.
Sure. We were due.
Did I miss something?
No, we were due to go in at 8:40 and it's 7:15, so.
Well, I mean, did I miss something on the agenda? Like,
No.
did we get through it?
No, I'm saying.
No, you went through it with lots
saying-
of
Okay,
efficiency.
Very
Okay.
efficient.
okay. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss
Well,
something.
no, the big thing is there was 30 minutes allotted for public input, which didn't happen.
Off the top. Yep, yep.
I know, but we
And I
didn't-
think,
we didn't post
even
it.
for our discussion, I mean, that
Oh,
was,
yeah.
that was done in maybe 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, and we allotted 50 minutes. So it was just a little bit over allotted for everything across the boards, but that 30 minutes now that we're allotting for that is always gonna skew things in that. But we sometimes need that time, so,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
yeah, but, no, overall, just very smooth, efficient, and it was nice to have our students here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so you guys are welcome to leave. Thank you for your attendance. And then I need a motion by member. I need a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to, what are we pursuant to?
Negotiations.
Negotiation, so what one is that?
Yeah, I think we can.
Compensation, is that it? 91A 32A, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. I need that motion. Moved by Beth,
Second.
second by Kate. And I need a roll
Tom,
call
aye.
vote.
Beth, aye. Cindy, aye. Krista, aye.
Holly, aye.
Kate, aye.
Rob, aye.
Okay, so we are now in non-public session